Shaolin Monks was actually a different game, and they came to us and they mocked the game up as Raiden. You know, imagine Raiden running around doing all the moves that he did. And they said, you know, hey, what do you think? You know, we think this would make a really cool Mortal Kombat game. They put some awesome moves. You know, they came up with this great fighting mechanic with all that. And we were like, absolutely. And I was like, you know, I think it should be a two-player game. It should be Liu Kang and Kung Lao. And let's, you know, so then they like changed the models around and mocked that up, and they were all exciting. And that's just kind of set it off in the direction. The guys at Paradox, they were working on a really great mechanic that they had, and we just kind of merged the two with Mortal Kombat, and that started the whole thing.
Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks is our attempt to take Mortal Kombat into another style of game, the action-adventure genre. When we started this game, we really wanted to make sure we had a really solid engine, so we got a really good fighting engine in to make sure we were confident in that. But then we wanted to take a step back in MK2 world. Everyone loved MK1, MK2, but there was so little story involved there. There was very little going on as far as like what we could convey in that era with technology and what games could do, especially with the arcade. So we're going back and retelling the story of Mortal Kombat 2, grabbing Liu Kang and Kung Lao as our two main heroes, doing all the MK2 storyline, but in much more detail. A lot of the story elements that you couldn't get before are now flushed out with our cinematics.
They're just taking the stuff that exists and really trying to expand on it. You know, like a lot of the story with Johnny Cage, Katana, Melina, and Jade play a really big role in the game. Whereas Jade was just kind of like this hidden character that programmed in an afternoon, you know, changed Katana to be green, and then that was it. They really expanded on it and really made it a lot more deeper story with the three of them.
MK has done a series of different adventure games before. We set those aside and just started fresh with this. Like, okay, we're taking Mortal Kombat Fight into an adventure style. So let's look at the core MK fight mechanics, juggles, combos, super moves, fatalities. Now let's find a way to seamlessly integrate that into a fight engine. And then, as long as we're fighting in an open world, more or less an adventure game, we have to be able to fight multiple lanes at once. We didn't like a lot of adventure games that like, you attack this way and then they quickly turn and everything's just turn, turn, turn. So we built a multi-directional combat system. So if you do attack this way and then turn to fight the other way in a very fast function, every attack has a different animation for backwards and both sides. We wanted everything to be completely seamless, and every move can link to every other move. The player in our game starts with about 50 moves, which is almost double what your average adventure game has at the end of the game. Then we let the player move up to almost 100 total moves by the time they're done.
We always knew that we were going to have a lot of nostalgia with this game. People are going to say, oh, I remember that background when, you know, I was playing MK2. But we didn't know how cool it would be seeing it in 3D. The guys at Paradox did an amazing job. They're like looking at stuff and expanding it into the third dimension, you know, from stuff that we had in 1995.
Bringing the MK2 world to life was one of the more fun things for me. We would literally just start, the concept art was interesting because we would start with an MK2 background and then make concept art from that. We literally would take screenshots and concept art up and then go, okay, how do we make this 3D? How do we make it more interactable? Okay, you know, we have the forest. You know, there were a lot of rumors that the trees could eat people. That's something we have to do immediately. The trees have to be able to eat people. You know what, this background, oh, the tombs had the spikes in the ceiling, totally got to be usable all the time. We wanted every MK2 background to be in the game and fully interactable. It was a lot of fun bringing those into real life. It's been a lot of fun to have those MK2 rooms inspire whole levels.
The fighting system has gone through a number of refinements. You know, the basic premise was there, the foundation of the fighting system was there, and we made suggestions and they've modified it. Just as any fighting game kind of goes through the whole process of tweaking and modification, and we get people to play it. My big thing that I push is to make it as accessible as possible, because you can make something that's really cool and elaborate, but if 80% of the people can't appreciate it, it's not going to perform well. So we really wanted to make it as accessible as possible.
A lot of the MK2 fatalities we're using as stepping stones to bigger fatalities. But we took the death system of Mortal Kombat into a much bigger theme into this, because we wanted to not have to like flop and die like a lot of other games you die. There's a lot of times in the game, you might just want to let your character die just to see what happens. All the boss fights have a special fatality. You and the opponent. You have your standard fatalities you can perform on the regular characters throughout the game. Even just the levels, we have what we call level fatalities. Different levels have their own fatality. Just dying in the living forest, if you die in a certain areas of the living forest, the vines will come out and rip you out and rip you apart. Every area has its own special fatality. Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks would come out in September 2005. for PS2 and the Xbox.